Hi everyone, we're already now into chapter 7 in the book, and this one is about international strategy. Huge one for most companies. You can't really compete in the world without having a very precise and very direct international strategy, deciding in what countries you want to compete, how you're going to compete in those different countries. Part of the problem and issue with going international is that if your level of complexity on a scale of 1 to 10 was when you were, say, for example, competing in the US market, if your complexity is a 4 when you're in the US and you decide to go international, your complexity just went to 100 on a scale of 1 to 10. You now have to look at the different markets, the different customers, the different needs, languages, time zones, preferences, governments, regulations, laws, patents, intellectual property protection, okay? And I could go on and on and on and on. If you've had Management 4030, you went over this in great detail. And in this class, this is just a quick overview in Chapter 7. But what I want to talk about is very specific on page 258 at the top. It's Exhibit 7.4. This one has the 4 different international strategies. And what's really important here is to understand these 4 circles and what they mean. So essentially what we're talking about is if we owned and manufactured cookies, we're Northwood Cookie Company. If we had a global strategy, which means that we need to get what's called economies of scale, and we have a very high pressure to lower costs and have a lowest cost structure in our company, and excuse me, in the industry that we're in as well. A global strategy is you try to produce as many cookies the same as you can to get the lowest cost structure. You don't adapt those cookies. You make the same cherry chocolate chip cookie that you would in the United States, and you sell it to Japan and to China and to England and to Australia. And that does not change virtually. You might have to change a language or two on the packaging, but you really don't change it much. So that's a global strategy. So it's basically the same product around the world. If we go to the lower right corner there, the multi-domestic strategy, there, if we're going to make cookies, and there the pressure is for very high local adaptation or very high market changes and market needs. So there, we're changing our cookie every country that we go into. So in the United States, if we make cherry chocolate chip cookies, then in Japan we're going to make wasabi cookies. In China we're going to make a rice cookie. In Belgium we're going to make a double, triple chocolate cookie. Okay, we're going to go around and every country is going to be different. Also there, you're probably going to be manufacturing a cookie in the United States, a cookie in Europe, and a cookie in Asia. And you're going to have plants there and areas there where you're going to have HR, finance, production, sales, marketing, everything. So you really have these silos of companies that will happen in each of those regions because they are so focused in on what they're making for their market. They can charge a lot more because they are very tailored to what the customer exactly wants and needs. Versus the global strategy is you're not changing anything, you're just selling everything to the world because you're worried about cost structure. The international strategy does happen, although it's probably the one that's the rarest or the most rare. It is low pressure for local adaptation and low pressure for lower costs, meaning a company that maybe is a pharmaceutical company, manufactures a certain type of medication that only 20,000 people in the whole world make it or have this disease that they need the medication for. So there, in that situation, you wouldn't care about changing it to the local needs because everyone's the same in the world. You don't have to worry about your cost structure because if you're saving these people's lives, it doesn't matter pretty much how much it costs. So in that situation, you would do an international strategy. The last one here is the gold standard, is the transnational strategy. That one is about 3 things really. It's about the lowest cost structure possible without making any changes to the quality of the product. At the same time, you are making that product local, so you are using the rice cookie, the wasabi cookie, the double, triple chocolate cookie, and you are making those in a different way than you would be making them in the multi-domestic because you have to look at your cost structure. So in this situation, what you might do, which is very common for many companies, you would make what's called a batch material in the United States plant and maybe one other throughout the world. There you would add the flour, the sugar, the egg, and any other thing that you would need to make the basic dough. You would not cook the cookies or do anything else or add any other ingredients to it. You would ship and you would make massive amounts of this raw material dough. You would then ship that dough out to finishing plants across the world. So you may have one in China, one in Japan, one in Australia, a couple in Europe, and there they would take that base raw material and they would add the finishing products. They would bake the cookies off, they would package them, and if local languages were needed, whatever, then you get efficiencies in that way. The other thing here is there's worldwide learning, so you may have areas of expertise, a finance expertise area in London, a marketing expertise in India and the United States, and you will learn from each other an innovation area of expertise in certain countries too. And when a certain area of the world learns something, they can then transfer that knowledge and apply it around the world. So this is really a collective way to do a strategy, and this is a way that you can get the double punch here of higher revenues because you're tailoring it to what your customers want, lower cost structure because you have efficiencies by doing this batch way of making the product around the world. So hopefully you have a higher profit. All right, hopefully that makes sense. It goes into great detail in the book as well, but I just want to give my overview. Thanks. Bye-bye.